as was commented on, addresses the work done by the Procedure and House Affairs Committee following the Chief Electoral Officer's report after the 2015 election, and as well the Senate Committee on Legal and Constitutional Affairs, study of third-party spending in Canada. This is a very comprehensive bill, Mr. Speaker, following extensive consultation.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Repentigny. On Sunday evening was the 40th Gala de la Disque, and I want to say just how proud we are of our creators. Be it the rising stars like Hubert Lenoir, or new artists like Claude Bellegarde, or giants like Harmonium. Quebec has seen just how rich and diverse our musical scene is. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I want to congratulate all of the winners and also all of the artists working behind the scenes. We are better collectively, thanks to you, our artists. You have the courage to invest yourselves, body and soul in your work. So thank you for working with us. And in concluding, I'd like to remind all music lovers just how fortunate we are to be able to see this talent through a vast network of performance halls. Don't miss them. The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, the Right Honourable Jean Chrétien recently expressed concern on Radio-Canada about the erosion of French in Canada and Ottawa. And that is a sentiment shared by many of my Québécois friends. I want to reassure all Francophones in Canada. Each day, I personally see how the language is flourishing, how it's being protected in an exemplary way in our institutions. Our government is ensuring that French continues to be highly valued across the country. My colleagues and I have not forgotten that French Canadians are a founding people of our beautiful country. They are an integral part of Canadian identity. I invite and encourage all of my colleagues and this House, its employees, its institutions, to continue to commit to learning, protecting, and helping the French language flourish in our society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Lethbridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I have the privilege of honouring a remarkable individual from my constituency. He's been a pastor for nearly 30 years, and this person has chosen to serve selflessly. He's known for helping families through loss and grief, for mentoring youth, for training up leaders, for opening his home to those in need of a place to celebrate Christmas. He's known for working overseas with the world's most impoverished, for teaching in places like Ethiopia and Egypt. And he's known also for helping to raise a whole lot of money for local initiatives such as the school breakfast program, the YWCA Women's Shelter, and maternal health care in Ecuador and Nicaragua. This man has served faithfully as a voice for the voiceless and an advocate for the weak. He is known as a hero to many. As a testament to his love for the less fortunate and his passion to see every child fed, clothed, and cared for through an education, he has served faithfully on the board of Compassion Canada for 13 years and tirelessly recruits others to join him in his fight against poverty. Today, I honour Ian Lawson for his selfless dedication to bettering the lives of others, and I say thank you.
The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to draw attention to the deterioration of human rights currently occurring in Honduras, Venezuela, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. As I speak, thousands of migrants from these countries are fleeing to other parts of Latin America and the United States out of fear for their lives and the lives of their children, and to seek a better future. Rampant government corruption and inaction has resulted in protesters being illegally detained, in gang violence, torture, and sexual violence. Millions are fleeing due to intense food shortages and a severe lack of necessities. I am proud of our national government and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who has condemned Honduras, Nicaragua, and Venezuela for failing to protect their citizens, and have called for the end of all human rights abuses, for the perpetrators to be brought to justice, and for democratic and human rights to be restored and the rule of law followed. I urge us all to be vigilant in what is happening in Latin America. Canada must continue to be a leader on the global stage and condemn regimes that fail to uphold the basic principles of democracy and do not protect the
The honourable member for Victoria.
Last week, dozens of constituents came to my community office. They shared their profound concerns about the sobering report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change on limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. Canada has a climate plan that falls far short of what science says we need. The latest Climate Change Performance Index has Canada ranked a woeful 51st out of 60 countries. That index refers to Canada as one of the largest producers of absolute greenhouse gases, as well as per capita emissions. Canada could be a leader in fighting against climate change, but instead we've become an international embarrassment. We must strengthen our international climate commitments and begin to build a 100% renewable energy economy that respects Indigenous rights. Also, there's no way Canada will meet its Paris commitments if it goes ahead with the Liberals' Trans Mountain expansion. We need real leadership to address climate change, and Mr. Speaker, we need it now.
The honourable member for Avalon.
Mr. Speaker, in the early morning hours of Friday past, I received the sad news that the fish plant operated by HoC & Sons Fisheries Limited in O'Donnell's had caught ablaze and was lost to the fire. John Hickey and his 3 sons, Craig, Todd and Keith, have been operating the plant as well as their own vessel out of the community for more than 30 years. This loss is felt not only in the community of O'Donnell's, but across St. Mary's Bay region, as the plant employed almost 100 people. On behalf of myself, all my Newfoundland and Labrador colleagues, and indeed our government, I offer our full support for the Hickey family and indeed the community of O'Donnell's during this devastating time. All our thoughts are with them today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Speaker, this evening I'm truly proud to be one of the hosts for an event highlighting the work of the Tegan and Sarah Foundation. Many of us colleagues will know Tegan and Sarah as the Canadian indie band composed of twin sisters Tegan Quinn and Sarah Quinn. They are amazing musicians and songwriters whom I've had the opportunity to see perform several times. But tonight we shine a light on the Tegan and Sarah Foundation, which fights for health, economic justice, and representation for LGBTQ girls and women. The Foundation raises awareness and funds to address the inequalities currently preventing LGBTQ girls and women from reaching their full potential. This work is critically important because LGBTQ women have higher rates of gynecological cancer, depression, obesity, suicide, and tobacco alcohol abuse. Discrimination, provider bias, insurance exclusions, and health coverage mean that LGBTQ women are struggling. So I invite my colleagues to join me tonight to celebrate this important work from 5 to 7 p.m. in room 410, Wellington Building. Thank you, Speaker.
L'honorable député Saint-Boniface, Saint-Vital.
The honourable member for Saint-Boniface, Saint-Vital.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, it's hardly a surprise that once again comments show a lack of knowledge about our Francophone communities outside of Quebec. I can assure you that the Francophonie in Canada is large, it is diverse, proud, and flourishing. The recent work by our government on renewing the regulation on official languages is proof. Our communities are showing impressive vitality. In Manitoba, there are all kinds of accents: Franco-Manitoban, Franco-Métis, Franco-European, Franco-African, Québécois, Acadian, just to name a few. And we also have record numbers of people registering their children in immersion schools, and as a result, we have many, many people who love French and speak French. From generation to generation, we will be there. From generation to generation.
Member for West Nova.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A.F. Theriault and Sons is the largest family-owned boat company which builds and repairs boats, employing in Nova Scotia, employing 225 people.
Canada, building state-of-the-art vessels such as Halifax's new passenger ferries and a high-speed unmanned hammerheads that are used in Navy training exercises in Canada and around the world. Such accomplishments have played a major role in the sustainability of our area's rural communities and have contributed greatly to the region's economic prosperity. Le 20 octobre, j'ai eu le...
On October 20th, I had an opportunity to celebrate with the employees at AF Terrio and the entire community the 80th anniversary of the company.
Congratulating AF Terrio and Son on this historic year, their 80th anniversary, and wishing them 80 more years of success. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend I was door knocking in my riding, and there's still far too many people unable to find work. I heard stories of people remortgaging their homes, exhausting their savings, and borrowing from family just to stay afloat. Calgary's being left behind, and neither the NDP or the Liberals seem to care. We know that pipelines are the safest and most environmentally friendly way for Alberta to get its resources to market. But the NDP have vowed to continue fighting the Trans Mountain Pipeline while thousands of oil workers continue to suffer. And the Liberals bought one pipeline and promised to build another, but have failed to deliver. More and more, my constituents are telling me we need a change. Mr. Speaker, this coming year, we will see both a federal and a provincial election in Alberta. When it comes time for my constituents to vote, the failures of the NDP and the Liberals will make their choice an easy one.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend we recognized one of our most revered residents, the late Johnny Bower, a Canadian Hockey Hall of Famer with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who tragically lost his life under a year ago. Joined by Mr. Bower's wife, son, and granddaughter, the city of Mississauga renamed Rink 1 at Meadowville 4 Rinks in honor of his legacy. A part of Toronto Maple Leafs' last 4 Stanley Cup wins, he was the goalie who created the poke check, a great philanthropist and volunteer, and also a mentor in his community to young hockey players. Meadowville residents filled the rink to show their support, and I would like to acknowledge Councillor Pat Sato for being the driving force behind this. Our riding honored a great Canadian, and we know this dedication will inspire generations to come.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to tell you about an important recent event in my riding of New Brunswick Southwest. Several teams of volunteer firefighters joined together from St. Andrews, St. George, St. Stephen, Western Charlotte, Lawrence Station, Oak Bay, Fundy Bay, Eastern Charlotte Regional, Simons, and Hampton Fire Departments, as well as an all-female team made up of volunteer firefighters from Upper Gagetown, Upper Kingsclear, and various other smaller departments. They joined in St. Andrews for a fire truck pull to raise funds for Muscular Dystrophy Canada. Their challenge? Pull a 35,000-pound fire truck across the finish line. As crowds cheered from the sidelines, it was the Hampton Fire Department that pulled ahead and took home the win. Of course, the real winner of the fire truck pull is Muscular Dystrophy Canada. Together, I'm proud to say they raised an incredible $4,700. Wow. I'd also like to recognize Blacks Harbour Fire Chief Dale Shaw for his 40 years of dedicated service. Congratulations to all.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, it's my honour today to receive here mayors from 25 municipalities responsible for economic development in Mégantic-L'Érable. We are from large and small cities and towns, and we have farmers, businesses, hunters, fishers. There are projects throughout the region, Mr. Speaker. The challenges are large and tools are required in order to enable the smallest ideas to become reality. A cell phone isn't present in all regions. High-speed internet is caught up in traffic, and it's inaccessible for too many small companies. There are companies putting off important expansion projects through a shortage of manpower. And the mayors are in Ottawa seeking answers. On behalf of my colleagues, I salute the municipal elected officials in my riding who have traveled 12 hours by road in order to talk about economic development. Thank you for your dedication. I'm happy to be your MP.
Honourable member for Northwest Territories.
Speaker, many places across Canada had their municipal elections for mayor and council in the past couple of weeks, just as we have in my riding of Northwest Territories. And I want to express my gratitude for all those who put their names forward to represent their neighbours and their communities. Running for election is one of the hardest job interviews there is, but no guarantee for success and often coming at high personal cost, win or lose. I know this from experience, Mr. Speaker, as a previous mayor myself. Last week, the NBT ran up some impressive and historic numbers in the municipal election. The 4 largest cities, towns have elected female mayors. This means the salutation for over 70% of the Northwest Territories residents to use when they address their community leaders is her worship. This can only mean good things, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations to all those elected, and I look forward to meeting and working with you in the future. Thank you.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
The 2018 Vancouver homelessness count found 2,181 people without a place called home. This was a 2% increase from last year and the highest since the count began in 2005. That's not even counting the people couch-surfing. People are literally living in tents on the streets and in parks. An average one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver is $2,100 a month. Vacancy rates are under 1%. Home ownership is but a dream, with the average detached home in Greater Vancouver reaching $1.7 million. Meanwhile, both the Liberals and the Conservatives refuse to acknowledge that housing is a basic right. So newsflash to both the Liberals and Conservatives. The need for affordable housing is real and urgent. A national housing strategy that won't see 90% of the money flow until after the next election is absurd. Flow the money and build the housing now, not after the next election.
The honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 2 months since the outrageous news broke that convicted murderer Chris Garnier was receiving veterans benefits despite having never served a day in his life. At the time, the minister promised veterans answers, yet no answers came. When given a chance, every member on the Liberal side of this House voted against stripping Chris Garnier of these benefits. Since then, we've learned that veterans applying for benefits that they've earned are being forced to wait months and sometimes years for those benefits. We've learned that the Liberal government's pension scheme is a shell game, and if you challenge them on it, like Sean Bure did, they'll send in high-priced lawyers to shut you up. Susan and Dwight Campbell, the parents of Chris Garnier's victim, Catherine Campbell, are still waiting for answers. Enough is enough. The Prime Minister needs to show leadership, step in, and revoke these benefits.
The honourable member for West Vancouver Sunshine Coast Sea to Sky Country.
On behalf of all senators and members and all parties present, we extend a warm welcome to all of those joining in this fund on juvenile diabetes.
To 15 in Ottawa to meet members of Parliament and senators to enlighten us about the 24-hour-a-day, 365 days of the year of blood sugar testing, insulin doses, and lows and highs of life with type 1. At the same time as raising awareness, these young advocates are here to thank parliamentarians for listening to them and thank us for supporting the world-leading research conducted by Canadian scientists who are dedicated to turning type 1 into type none. The Juvenile Diabetes Caucus is truly nonpartisan, and we welcome new members. On behalf of all my colleagues in the House, we are truly inspired by the courage and leadership in Ottawa this week by Kids for a Cure.
Questions orales, oral questions, the honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, Stats Canada has written Canada's 9 largest financial institutions and demanded that they hand over millions and millions of financial transactions from hundreds of thousands of Canadians. And but for a global news report, Canadians would never know that the government was this far into their personal information. Mr. Speaker, they know now, and they're appalled. Will the Prime Minister use his power and direct StatsCan to cease and desist?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is ensuring that the personal data of Canadians are protected. Statistics Canada will use anonymized data for statistical purposes only. No personal information will be made public. Statistics Canada is actively engaged with the Privacy Commissioner's Office on this project and is working with them to ensure that Canadians' banking information remains protected and private. However, Mr. Speaker, high-quality and timely data are critical to ensuring that government programs remain relevant and effective for Canadians.
Order. The Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, this isn't the first time that this government has sought to receive private information from Canadians and not tell them. In October of 2017 and January of 2018, Statistics Canada demanded that TransUnion Credit Agency hand over millions of files to the government, and they were not anonymous. Mr. Speaker, they demanded social insurance numbers, names, addresses, dates of birth, detailed credit information, balances owed, balances overdue, and 30 other fields of data. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister tell Stats Canada to stand down?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, for a lot of Canadians, this line of questioning from the Conservatives is all too familiar. For 10 years, under them in government, they chose to govern by ideology and not by facts or science. When facts got in the way, they simply stopped collecting them. They fired the chief science advisor and eliminated the long-form census. We brought back both. Statistics Canada is, of course, engaged with the Privacy Commissioner's Office on this project to ensure that the information of Canadians remains protected.
Member for Milton.
I want to be very clear, Mr. Speaker. This Prime Minister is telling Canadians that it's okay for their government to understand all of their financial information held by banks, all of their financial information held by credit agencies, all of their financial information held by utilities, held by mobile phones. Every single thing that we use in our lives is something that this government wants to have their hands on. Mr. Speaker, this is ridiculous. Will they tell Stats Canada to back down for the sake of
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing is the Conservative Party of Canada learned nothing from Canadians in the 2015 election. When we restored the long-form census as the very first thing we did when we took office in 2015, Canadians from coast to coast to coast cheered. The Conservatives attack data, science, and evidence as the grounding of strong public policy, and they continue to show they're still the party of Stephen Harper. They're still the party of a war on science and facts.
Order. I remind the member for Edmonton, Manning and others that the time to speak is when they have the floor, which one would think would happen eventually. The
Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Order. Mr. Speaker, here's the truth. Statistics Canada wants to have access to over 5,000 Canadians' data without their consent. This ranges from bank withdrawals up to social insurance numbers. And the Prime Minister said here in this House yesterday that he is okay with this practice. A practice that allows the Liberal government to get personal data from Canadian citizens without their consent. How can the Prime Minister have access or agree to this demand and allow such a situation to continue? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, because on this side of the House, we trust the Privacy Commissioner. We will always ensure that Canadians' data is protected. Statistics Canada uses anonymized data for statistical purposes only. No personal information will be made public. But Quebecers and all Canadians understand that getting high-quality data is essential to allow the government to run programs that remain relevant and effective for all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, the Act is clear. The Personal Information and Protection Act Section 5, subsection 2, says that the government cannot ask for personal confidential information without the citizen's permission. Again, the Prime Minister said here in this House yesterday that he was okay with this technique of getting citizens' information without their consent. This is simply unacceptable. Why will he not change the situation and do what he needs to do and put an end to the situation? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, it's clear that the Conservatives haven't understood what Canadians told us in 2015. The Conservatives got rid of the long-form census, and we restored it. That was the first thing that we did when we came to office. And Canadians, including Quebecers, celebrated because they knew that having evidence-based, data-based policy is the right way of doing politics, not the old way that Stephen Harper used to promulgate. Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata Basque. Mr. Speaker, the Canada Revenue Agency continues to make news for all the wrong reasons. They're twiddling their thumbs and avoiding dealing with KPMG's wealthy clients and others who were named in the Panama Papers, while mercilessly going after Canadians who receive government benefits but can't afford to defend themselves. The CRA recovered over $1 billion from 332,000 files in the last 5 years, but can't seem to deal with the 3,000 Canadians who were named in the Panama Papers just a year ago. So my question, Mr. Speaker, why do the Liberals have this double standard when it comes to tax fairness? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are determined to ensure that Canadians get the tax credits and benefits that they are entitled to. We've made considerable progress to ensure that eligible Canadians receive their benefits. For example, the CRA now proactively communicates with people who don't file their taxes so that they can get the money that they are entitled to. After 10 years of cuts under the Conservatives, we are continuing to invest in a new customer-based approach. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata Basque. But that's the problem. We're not talking about benefits, we're talking about them taking back money from people. Do you remember that the Liberals promised to end inappropriate auditing of charities? It was in the Minister's mandate letter, and this summer the Superior Court of Ontario ordered the government to cease and desist. But will the Liberals stop? No, they're going to appeal the case. So will they stop persecuting Canadians who are receiving benefits? Nope, because they're an easy target. Will they track down the wealthy individuals named in the Panama Papers? Well, why would they? They haven't so far. So I repeat, why this double standard on tax fairness? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our government is taking action to ensure that people who try to evade paying taxes actually have to pay them. That's why we invested nearly $1 billion in our first 2 years in government to allow the CRA to be better empowered to recover money from people who are trying to evade their responsibilities. Furthermore, we are ensuring that we help those who are entitled to receive benefits, even if they're low income and didn't file their taxes. That's what a fair tax system is.
Canadians have seen the egregious holes in our income tax system with the Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers, the Isle of Man scam, and offshore tax havens, wealthy Canadians getting off the hook on paying taxes. Well, this Liberal government has done virtually nothing to crack down on offshore tax havens, but they have targeted regular Canadians. Under this government, well over $1 billion has been clawed back from Canadians, many of whom qualify for the disability tax credit or child benefits. Why are the Liberals denying benefits to families who deserve them?
Right. Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government remains committed to ensuring that Canadians receive the credits and benefits to which they are entitled, as we recognize that they are essential for middle-class families to make ends meet. We've made significant progress in getting benefits to eligible Canadians. For example, the CRA now proactively communicates with low-income non-filers to encourage them to file so they can get the money they are owed. After 10 years of cuts under the Harper Conservatives, we will continue to invest in a new client-focused approach.
Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Liberals should be targeting tax havens, not targeting families, Mr. Speaker. Now, the Prime Minister made a snide comment yesterday about the NDP when I asked him about the by-elections. But it's not just the NDP calling for a vote. It's Canadians. Today, party leaders from across the political spectrum called on the Prime Minister to show respect to voters. 300,000 Canadians are being denied the right to representation by this Prime Minister. Will he listen to parties representing 150 members of Parliament and call the vote now?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to go back to the CRA, we've made historic investments to fight against tax cheats. We fully adopted the international standard for automatic information exchange with our partners in the OECD to give the CRA useful data to help fight tax cheats even more effectively. With respect to offshore tax evasion, the CRA is currently conducting audits on over more than 1,100 taxpayers and opened over 50 criminal investigations. As for the by-elections, we look forward to calling them soon and look forward to campaigning against people who are so enthusiastic about the democratic process.
Order. The honourable member for order. Order. The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, the government has no right to snoop through the personal financial information of Canadians. Yet these Liberals are demanding that credit bureaus and banks secretly hand over comprehensive personal information. Bank balances, mortgage payments, online purchases, credit card statements. Mr. Speaker, they want it all. When will they stop this unauthorized surveillance on Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, we've been clear day in and day out when it comes to privacy, when it comes to data protection. This is a priority for this government. And with respect to Statistics Canada, it is subject to the Privacy Act, which means that it must ensure compliance to the privacy principles embedded in the Act, including the protection of personal information. There's rigorous and robust process in place, and they've also engaged the Privacy Commissioner as well, Mr. Speaker. Like I've said before, we've been very clear. We will always make sure that data and privacy are respected.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, working with the Privacy Commissioner means heeding concerns about privacy for Canadians, not using his office for political cover. Now, one expert has said that the law has never really contemplated anything on this scale, and we aren't talking about transactions with possible criminal links. These are regular Canadians going about their business, and the Liberal government wants to know every detail of their financial lives. Mr. Speaker, it's 2018, not 1984. When will these Liberals hear the privacy concerns, or are they going to continue their plans for an Orwellian intrusion into the private lives of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, again, we've been very clear when it comes to privacy and data that we'll continue to make sure that the processes are followed to protect consent and issues of privacy. What I find very interesting is the members opposite continue to undermine and attack Statistics Canada. They've got a long track record against evidence-based decision-making, against facts, against data. What is their problem with good quality data? That is why the first decision point of our government was to reinstate the mandatory long-form census. This was applauded by Canadians from coast to coast to coast, including in Conservative ridings. They should talk to Canadians.
They should.
Order. The honourable member for Calgary Signal Hill will come to order. The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Identity theft is not a joke. Millions of families suffer every year. This Prime Minister is putting Canadians' personal information and identity at risk. There is no way to ensure this information will be protected when earlier this year Stats Canada lost 600 files under his watch. The government has no right to track every financial decision of every Canadian citizen. Will the Liberals cancel this unprecedented and unauthorized surveillance?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, again, we've been very clear. We understand the importance of protecting individual privacy and data. But again, I fail to understand why the members opposite continue to undermine a statistical agency that is revered by Canadians. Well over 80% of Canadians respect Statistics Canada. It's a great organization that collects relevant information that helps communities, that helps businesses, particularly small and medium-sized businesses, with appropriate data so they can make informed decisions. What do they have against good quality, reliable data, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Google and Facebook are serious organizations too, and they've also stolen data. This government wants to trample on Canadians' privacy. After all the mess they've made in the last 3 years, how can we trust them? This Liberal government plans to access the private financial information of Canadians without telling them. Our credit card purchases, cash withdrawals, bill payments, and deposits, they belong to us. When will the Prime Minister put an end to this unacceptable intrusion into people's private lives? Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, again, look, listen to them. Data has been stolen. No data has been stolen. Information has been requested. Statistics Canada makes sure that they follow a process, which is very rigorous, very robust when it comes to making sure that they protect privacy and data. They've also engaged the Privacy Commissioner as well. The members opposite actually have a fundamental problem with regards to Statistics Canada. They don't understand the importance of good quality data, about evidence-based making policy. They have a fundamental ideological problem, and that's very unfortunate.
The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have 800 pages from just the last 2 years of times when Canadians' information has been breached by this government. Liberals don't protect data. They lose it, they misuse it, and they leak it. Canadians don't trust Liberals when it comes to their information. I'll be happy to table those documents after question period, Mr. Speaker. When will the Prime Minister stop this unauthorized surveillance of Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Again, Mr. Speaker, let me be very clear. Our government understands the importance of protecting privacy, of protecting data. That's why we've actually engaged in a data and digital consultation process to further build more trust within Canadians when it comes to their data. Our government understands why it's important to make sure that in the digital economy, when transactions occur online, that people have an understanding about privacy, about consent, about data ownership, about data portability. We're taking additional measures to strengthen our privacy legislation as well, Mr. Speaker.
Opposition House Leader, order.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Canadians just don't trust Liberals with their private information. But just as importantly, Canadians want to know why the government needs to know who they pay, how much they pay, what they purchase online, what they are giving to their children through e-transfers. And, Mr. Speaker, Canadians want to know why the government needs to know that and not even tell Canadians that they're going to be told about it. This is Big Brother on steroids, Mr. Speaker. It needs to stop. The Prime Minister has the ability to stop it. Why will he not stop this unauthorized surveillance of Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Again, Mr. Speaker, all the appropriate processes were followed. Statistics Canada makes routine requests. They have clear, robust provisions in place to protect privacy, to protect data, to make sure it's anonymized. They have clear processes in place. The members opposite fundamentally have an issue when it comes to data because they don't believe in the facts. They don't believe in data. They fundamentally don't believe in making sure that we have a mandatory long-form census. This is where the disagreement occurs. We support good quality, reliable data. They do not.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Mr. Speaker, for decades, women have been calling for pay equity legislation. The Liberals' proposal is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't include measures dealing with salary transparency, as stakeholders had requested. Will the Commissioner of Pay Equity have the resources he or she needs to do their work properly? We still don't know. Why, after 3 years of promises, is there still so much work left to do? And why do women have to wait 4 more years for pay equity to become a reality?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was proud to stand in this honourable place with my colleague, Minister of Status Women, and the President of the Treasury Board to announce that our government will be moving forward with proactive pay equity legislation. This is fundamentally to address the wrongs of unequal pay for work of equal value. Hundreds of thousands of women will benefit from this action. I'm very proud of a government that understands that equity in the workplace is good for all of us.
Honourable member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
So women have waited 42 years for the Liberals to keep their promise on pay equity. Meanwhile, the unions fought Canada Post 30 years in court. And women's organizations have worked tirelessly to get us to this point to finally have pay equity legislation in the House. They worked for decades. So women are done waiting. Do they really have to wait another 4 years in order to have equal pay?
Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, we are committed to effective implementation and enforcement of proactive pay equity in federally regulated workplaces. Our pay equity plan was constructed with consultation from employers, yes, from labour, yes, from experts and advocates, and that's why we're so sure that this approach is the right one to take. We are very proud of introducing this proactive pay equity legislation, the first federal government in the history of this country to take this issue seriously.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, they say a gaffe is when someone accidentally tells the truth. And yesterday, the Parliamentary Secretary for the Environment had such a gaffe. I asked him why his government was exempting large industrial emitters from the carbon tax. And he said that if they were forced to pay the tax, and I quote, we could potentially have jobs leave, and it will do nothing for emissions, which is exactly what our side has been saying. High taxes drive jobs out of the country, global emissions up, and do nothing for the environment. Now that they agree, will they exempt all Canadians from their carbon tax?
Honourable Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians across the country expect their government to take action to deal with climate change. That's exactly what our government is doing. We're ensuring a price across Canada on what we don't want, pollution, so we can get more of what we want. Lower emissions, new business opportunities, and more money in the pockets of Canadians. The Leader of the Opposition is at Queen's Park today getting his marching orders from Doug Ford on Stephen Harper's failed plan to deal with climate change. Canadians expect better from the Leader of the Conservative Party.
Order. 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 The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora will come to order. Order. Allah. And Banff Airdrie as well, please. The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, he says now the carbon tax will create business opportunities. Yesterday, his own parliamentary secretary was saying exactly the opposite. He said exempting business from the carbon tax is being done, and I quote, the point is to keep jobs in Canada so that emitters do not pollute elsewhere. We have been saying exactly that the carbon tax will drive business out of this country to places with poorer environmental standards, killing jobs at home, and driving global emissions up abroad. Now that they agree, will they not axe the tax?
The Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our plan is clear. We're putting a price on pollution and making life more affordable for Canadians. Climate change is real. Canadians deserve to know their government has a plan to deal with it, something the Conservative Party doesn't have. What they do not expect is for the Leader of the Opposition to get ordered around by Premier Ford, who is pushing Stephen Harper's failed agenda of 10 years of doing nothing to deal with climate change. Canadians deserve better, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, the member is upset that our leader is talking to my premier in my province, but he should go and back to his province for a moment and take a look at the new exemption that his government is giving to the Belledune coal-fired power plant, Mr. Speaker, which will receive a 96% exemption on the emissions comes from the smokestack on that coal-fired plant. Can he explain why he's charging more to grandmothers driving to get groceries, but almost nothing to coal-fired plants back in his province?
Order. I ask members to contain their excitement. Order. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I can tell by the excitement on the other side of the House that they've missed me dearly. I'm so pleased to answer the question, Mr. Speaker. Our government campaigned on a commitment to protect the environment and grow the economy at the same time. Our plan involves putting a price on pollution, including a price on emitters. If the honourable member wants to talk about the coal industry, I'd like to flag that we're actually phasing out coal by 2030. When the honourable member was actually sitting around the cabinet table under Stephen Harper's government, they didn't plan to take this action until 2062. That's 32 years with cleaner air, less childhood asthma, Mr. Speaker, and a cleaner environment. If the honourable member wants to get serious about the environment, I'd take this conversation anytime.
Honourable member for... Honourable member for Carleton.
Yeah, he'll take the conversation anytime except for the first two questions, Mr. Speaker. I'll just quote the CBC here. CBC, this is the CBC, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal plan will allow 96% of Belledune's greenhouse gas emissions to pass through its giant 168-meter smokestack for free, Mr. Speaker. They say that carbon taxes will save the earth. Why are they taking carbon taxes then off of their coal power plants?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, again, in the last election, we campaigned on a commitment to protect the environment, grow the economy, and help middle-class families. I'm pleased to share with the honourable member that our plan to put a price on pollution applies to heavy emitters as well. Mr. Speaker, our plan is actually going to leave middle-class families better off. Stephen Harper's former Director of Policy said so, and we've confirmed that when we come forward with the details on how New Brunswickers and members of other provinces are going to do under our plan. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to seeing the honourable member campaign in 2019 on a promise to take money from his constituents to make pollution free again.
The honourable member for Jonquière. The United Steelworkers are on the Hill this week to pressure the government to end pension theft. They were thunderstruck when the government announced a change to the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, which does not include the necessary measures to protect pensions, yet the Liberals had promised to act in the last budget. The NDP has a bill ready. It just needs to be adopted. When will the Liberals wake up and protect workers' pensions? The Honourable Minister for Economic Development.
For her very thoughtful question on an issue that we also think is very important. We support retirement security. That's why we actually strengthened CPP, the Canadian Pension Plan. But we also expanded the Wage Earner Protection Program as well. And as the member also highlighted, in 2018 in our budget, we put a whole-of-government approach when it comes to dealing with pensions in a meaningful way. We are absolutely committed to workers and pensioners, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about pension theft, not CPP. A Steelworkers delegation is on Parliament Hill this week to remind this government about the need to change Canada's inadequate bankruptcy and insolvency laws. They understand that under current bankruptcy laws, their pensions could be reduced with a stroke of a pen. How can this government explain to these steelworkers their failure to protect millions of Canadian workers from the theft of their pensions? How can they explain this betrayal?
The Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, pension security is important to our government. That's why in our last budget we committed to a solution to strengthen the pensions. In my mandate letter, I'm also pleased to say that I have been tasked with this. Our government has been consulting with stakeholders on this issue for the last number of years, and we want to continue to get this right. And that's why we're consulting with stakeholders to ensure not that we get any solution, but that we get the right solution. This is a decades-old problem, and what government is solving it? Our government is solving it, and we're going to get the right solution to this problem.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, as chair of the All-Party Women's Caucus, I've heard from many individuals and groups in my riding and across the country on the importance of women's participation in our workforce and our economy. Pay equity is one way that our government can move the dial towards equality and empowerment. Can the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Labour, who will be in my riding tomorrow, please update this House on our government's commitment to move forward with pay equity measures? Thank you.
Question. The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member of Mississauga Erin Mills for her hard work on this issue. Yesterday, I was so pleased to announce that our government is moving forward on implementing pay equity legislation, and I want to thank the Minister of Status of Women and the President of the Treasury Board for their hard work on this file. Pay equity isn't just the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. When Canadian women can count on equal pay for work of equal value, our economy grows stronger. A strong middle class depends on an economy where everyone has a real and fair chance at success. I want to thank employers and unions and advocates for their valuable input on our plan.
Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister continues to undermine democracy in this country by failing to call by-elections for 3 of the 4 vacant seats in Parliament. He is picking and choosing which Canadians get representation based upon his own political agenda, rather than leaving over 300,000 Canadians without a voice in Parliament. When will this Prime Minister respect democracy and call these by-elections?
The Honourable Minister of Democratic Institutions.
Pleasure for me to get up in this House and talk about democracy, because today Bill C-76 is going to 3rd reading, and that means that more Canadians in 2019, if it passes through the other place, will have an opportunity to vote than they did under the previous government. But Mr. Speaker, the Canada Elections Act sets out a time period for elections, for by-elections. Those will all be called within the time allocated, and we are very proud about the upcoming by-election on December 3rd. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister continues to treat our democracy like his own personal game. He sets the rules and Canadians are his pawns. Canadians were told today that he has chosen a Commissioner of Debates for federal elections. He has done this without any discussion or consultation with Canadians. When will this Prime Minister stop acting like a dictator and start respecting our democracy?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after consulting with Canadians, after roundtables organized by the RPP, after the Procedure and House Affairs Committee conducted an excellent study that I thank them for their hard work on this, we are so proud to announce the Right Honourable David Johnston as Canada's first Commissioner, independent for debate. Mr. Speaker, this is so important because in 2015, Mr. Speaker, that party's former leader, Mr. Harper, did not participate, did not want to have those national leaders debates, and this ensures that Canadians will have official debates in English and in French accessible to all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, they made that appointment without any consultation with the other parties. And what the Prime Minister has done is made a unilateral decision to name debates commissioners, sets the rules, and spending $5.5 million to set up the office of the commissioner, an office nobody was asking for except for the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister continues to abuse our democracy for his own political gain. Will the Prime Minister abandon his attempt to manipulate and rig the upcoming election?
Prime Minister of Democratic Institutions.
We are so proud that the Right Honourable David Johnston will take on this role to ensure that all Canadians from coast to coast to coast, official language, minority communities, Canadians with disabilities will have access to 2 debates, one in English and one in French, to ensure the defeat is free so that all Canadians can see their leaders in a moment that is so important during elections to decide who they want to govern them. Mr. Speaker, we believe that His Excellency, and we know that Canadians will see this as well, will be an excellent independent commissioner for debates in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have nothing against Mr. David Johnston, who moderated the 1984 debate when Mr. Mulroney handily defeated his opponent.
Because the actual government had an option, consulting or imposing. Pourquoi le gouvernement impose plutôt que...
Why has the government chosen to impose rather than consult? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, many consultations were held in the last year. We consulted with parliamentarians, with Canadians. We consulted with media across the country. And we have a plan which is appropriate. I'm happy to see that my colleague opposite sees how important these leaders' debates are, because it is important that Canadians see the spontaneous interaction between party leaders. This is what leads to decisions. It's good for democracy, and I hope that everyone in this chamber will work with the Right Honourable David Johnston, because we will be having debates with him.
The government quietly latched onto an interpretation of Sharia law to block international adoptions from Muslim-majority countries in 2013. This strange rule applies in countries that don't even follow Sharia law. Meanwhile, families like Sarah are blocked. It's been 6 years, and Sarah still can't unite with her adopted son. The orphanage is now demanding that Sarah bring him home or give him up. Why did the Liberals take 3 years to just review this bizarre policy, and will the government stop using an interpretation of Sharia law for adoptions?
Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, international adoptions must always protect the safety and well-being of the children, as well as comply with the laws of both countries. Harmonizing these laws can be challenging, but the HoC Conservatives didn't conduct enough consultations to make sure that provinces and territories that are responsible for adoption were on board in terms of the moratorium. They went ahead and cancelled all adoptions from Pakistan without taking into consideration the generosity of Canadians who wanted to sponsor. We've asked the department to initiate a review of this policy with an intent to institute a more fair process. Thank you.
Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday on the picket line with Canada Post workers, I learned that the company has suspended a number of benefits, including short-term disability payments. Michael Wall, who's been employed at the company since 2004 and has a serious illness, is depending on those payments in order to be able to make ends meet. For Canada Post to respond to the strike by attacking their most vulnerable workers is cynical and cruel. While the strike is rotating, these cuts in payments are not. So will the minister be complicit in this mistreatment of Michael and those like him, or will she get on the phone today and tell Canada Post to back off?
Honourable Minister of Employment and Labour.
Mr. Speaker, as we said time and again in this House, we believe in the collective bargaining process. We know this has been a difficult process, and that's why last week I took the measure to appoint a new mediator. Both parties are working closely with the new mediator, and they are still at the table collectively bargaining as they should. We look forward to an update on those talks in the near future.
Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Privy Council investigation into leaks from the Liberal cabinet meetings on shipbuilding revealed that 73 people were aware of the substance of the discussions. Of the 73, most were ignored, some were offered deals, one journalist was offered a job, and only one person is facing trial. The Prime Minister speculated that Admiral Norman might face charges, and eventually those charges came. 73 people, Mr. Speaker, and only one facing charges. How did the Prime Minister know that only Admiral Mark Norman would be charged?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, there are obviously outstanding legal proceedings with respect to this matter, and has been explained in this House repeatedly. While those proceedings are outstanding, it is certainly inappropriate for the government to make comment on the proceedings, and it's equally inappropriate for the opposition to press questions on that matter, because that has an interference with the judicial process, which members of Parliament are supposed to refrain from.
Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister says these questions are inappropriate. The first part of question period, there was a lot of talk about data protection. Well, Mr. Mark Norman wants data for his legal defense. The only protection going on is the Liberals protecting their butts, both literally and figuratively with Mr. Butts, Mr. Speaker. So, will the government permit the clerk of the Privy Council to appear before the Ethics Committee to confirm that none of the materials related to the shipbuilding cabinet discussions have been destroyed, deleted, or amended, Mr. Speaker?
Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the innuendo in the honourable member's question is entirely inappropriate. The honourable members opposite are not legal counsel. They are not legal agents in the outstanding prosecution. They have no standing with either the defence or the prosecution. They are not parties to the legal proceedings. All members need to allow Canada's independent court system to do its job without partisan interference.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I think it's time to stop playing hide and seek with the Norman file. We want to make sure that the documents needed by Mr. Norman have not been destroyed. Can the Prime Minister ask the clerk of the Privy Council to testify before the Parliamentary Committee to see whether the documents have been destroyed, yes or no?
Again, the innuendo that's buried in that question is absurd.
North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since our election, the Minister of National Revenue has been working relentlessly to fix the damage caused by the Harper Conservatives in the CRA's client services. Can the minister explain to us how the appointment of the first Chief Client Services Officer will help her reach her client services objectives?
The Honourable Minister.
I would like to thank my colleague for his question. In French, since 2015, we have launched several initiatives to improve client services of the CRA, and we know we can do better. The Chief Client Services Officer will be responsible for applying the Service Transformation Project with a client-focused approach. My first priority is the improvement of the agency's services for Canadians, including those of Scarborough North, that they be treated like important clients who deserve respect. Mr. Speaker.
Have loud conversations during question period when it's not his turn. I'd ask him to do so somewhere else. The member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, Liberals said during debate last night that the Minister of International Development has personally raised Canada's concerns about particularly problematic material in Palestinian textbooks with the Palestinian Prime Minister and Minister of Education, that she raised it as recently as this summer. If that's true, if the government is aware of and is raising the issue of anti-Semitic content in UNRWA textbooks, then why are they also funding them to the tune of $50 million?
The Honourable Minister of International Development. Mr. Speaker, indeed, I did go to the West Bank last summer. I visited schools and other facilities. I spoke with leaders and teachers. I spoke with students. I also spoke with the Prime Minister and the Minister of Education of the Palestinian Authority. I was able to provide funding for Right to Play, another organization which will support education and training of teachers in the schools of the West Bank and Gaza. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have broken their promises. The Prime Minister and the Minister for Families said they would improve EI sick leave benefits, but nothing has been done. Were these just empty promises? I wonder. The Liberals tabled the Budget Implementation Act, which included partial EI reforms, but there was nothing on sick leave benefits. But they have one more chance left in their last budget before the end of their mandate. Will the Liberals guarantee that they will improve sick leave benefits? The Minister for Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague for giving me the opportunity to remind my colleagues that EI is very important for our families, especially those who are going through difficult times. It's important for families to receive the benefits they are entitled to. I'm also pleased to say that since 2015, we have reformed 5 special types of benefits. We've added 2 new types of benefits, including EI benefits. These benefits are now more flexible and more adaptable to the needs of families.
Order, Allah.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. After having Band-Aid solutions by the Harper government, for 10 years, our grain farmers have asked our government for a solution to get hopper cars moving, and to get our grain crops to international markets so they can make a living. I know we listened and took action to address these concerns with the Minister of Transport. Please inform the Manitoba farmers and all Canadians about what he has done to fix the rail system.
The Minister of Transport.
I'd like to thank the member from Kildonan and St. Paul for her question and for her advocacy for Manitobans. You know, the Harbour Conservatives pretend to be the friends of our grain farmers, but for 10 long years, they did not do anything. In fact, when we brought in freight rail legislation to help our farmers and shippers, they voted against it. Mr. Speaker, our grain farmers and other producers in this country should know that we, this government, we have their back.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, they waited so long before adopting C-49 that we don't know if it'll help our producers this year. The Liberal government yesterday showed us again that they are doing nothing for our farmers who operate under supply management. How can the minister justify that a month after signing the USMCA, our farmers are still in the dark? Yesterday, the minister could have announced compensation. Instead, he said the government would create 2 committees. These committees should have been created before producers were sacrificed.
Merci, Mr. President, and we did exactly what we said we were going to do, Mr. Speaker. We understand there is an impact on the farmers, and we're committed to fully and fairly supporting them to make sure they can continue to succeed. We're forming working group with dairy processors and dairy farmers, with poultry and egg farmers and processors. Together, they will help our supply management farmers and processors innovate, grow, and remain competitive and sustainable for future generations. Mr. Speaker, we have and will continue to support our supply management sector and every other agriculture.
L'honorable député de Bécancour.
The honourable member for Bécancour, Nicolas Sorel. Mr. Speaker, I'm quoting from the report of the Transportation Safety Board. The report says the following: given the slowness in implementing our recommendations, the risks to safety persist. Over 60 recommendations are still pending. That's a third in the last 20 years. Ottawa is asleep at the switch. Mr. Speaker, what is the Minister of Transport waiting for to stop playing with the safety of Quebecers? The Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, the chair of the Transportation Safety Board recognized yesterday that Canada has one of the safest transportation systems in the world. Yet, we share the same opinion as the Bureau that at our department, our number one priority is safety in all modes of transport. We will keep on working towards that goal, and we are especially happy that yesterday the Transportation Safety Board removed 3 major issues from the safety watch list. That's progress, and we will keep on working to make our transport system the safest in the world. The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the minister did not read the report. The Transportation Safety Board, in its report, said clearly that the government is mismanaging the safety and oversight of federally regulated transportation companies. Further, it is unbelievable how the department is dragging its feet when it comes to regulating these companies. In short, the transportation safety problem comes from the department itself. What are the Liberals waiting for before they stop playing with the safety of Quebecers and Canadians? The Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that transportation safety is extremely important for all Canadians. It's important when Canadians are passengers on trains or on planes, and it's also important for the transportation of freight throughout our vast country. We take transportation safety very seriously. We're doing everything we can do to improve the regulations and to consult when necessary, as well to implement regulations which will ensure the safety of our transportation system.
Canadian children will be curious to see what gets into their Halloween bags. Unfortunately, trick or treat remains an apt metaphor for how our federal public servants are compensated under the Phoenix pay system. Tomorrow is also the 2-year anniversary of this government's deadline to fix Phoenix. How many more years will it take for this government to implement a payroll system that pays its workers accurately and on time?
Minister of Public Services and Procurement.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure the member that stabilizing the Phoenix pay system remains my absolute priority. We are seeing progress, but it is taking too long. Public servants deserve to be paid accurately and on time, but we are seeing progress. We have dealt with 100,000 transactions in the backlog since January. We have 1,500 people working at the pay center. We've paid out $1.5 billion in retroactive pay as a result of the collective agreements that were not bargained and were not completed by the previous government. Mr. Speaker, we are taking every step possible to ensure that our public servants are paid.
And trick or treat. Order. I've heard a lot today from the member for Battle River Crowfoot who hasn't had the floor. Maybe tomorrow he'll have the floor, but the thing is, if he keeps talking when he hasn't got the floor, he may not get the floor. The Honourable Opposition House Leader is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to seek unanimous consent to table a rather large document. It's actually over 800 pages, and no, it's not the Liberals' Omnibus Budget Implementation Act. In fact, what it is, it's the answers from the government in regards to how many departments, agencies, crown corporations, and other government entities have breached the privacy of Canadians. It's over 800 pages worth in less than 2 years that privacy has been breached. So I'm wondering if I would have unanimous consent in order to table.
There is no unanimous consent. The Honourable Government House Leader is rising on another point of order, rising out of question period.
Opposition soon to be government, but thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I absolutely apologize. Mr. Speaker, my mistake. This actually already has been tabled. This was a response from the government. It was tabled June 8th. So it is actually in the records already that the breach of privacy has occurred tens of thousands of times in less than 2 years.
This sounds like debate. This will conclude question period for today. I'll have a ruling to deliver in a moment.